Hey everybody, it's Nigel Jenkins of Laughing Heart Music and LHM Records, and today my guest is Katrina Lopes. Katrina is the president of KL Management, whose roster includes platinum-selling, Juno Award-winning artist and producer Shawn Desman, soul artist, film composer, and Sephora collaborator TiKA, soul artist and TedX speaker Danielle Ponder, and pop artist and singer-songwriter Kayla Diamond. KL clients have toured with artists like the Backstreet Boys, Selena Gomez, and John Legend, and have multiple platinum-selling and gold singles. Katrina and I got into the nitty-gritty about how you can get on stage with international stars like the ones I've just mentioned, brand partnerships, setting the vision for yourself as an artist, defining your values, and so much more. I hope you enjoy the chat, and thank you as always to Music NL, the province of NL, and ACOA for sponsoring this video series. Okay, talk soon. Okay, cool, so we're recording. All right, great. Hi, Katrina.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, how are you?
I'm good.
In New York City today?
Well, upstate New York.
Upstate, sorry.
Yeah.
I just assumed.
Yeah. No, upstate New York, and it is raining.
Yeah, raining here too, unfortunately, but that's it. We had a couple of days of sunshine in Newfoundland, and that's about what we get all summer.
Yeah.
So
I hear it's raining in Toronto too, so.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I want to jump right into it with you. Can you tell me, you have an interesting career trajectory at the front end of your work in music. Can you tell me how your degree in international development studies led you to working with the president of BMG and then into artist management?
Sure. Well, it was not a direct path.
Yeah. Nor was my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main connection was that, so I did international development studies at St. Mary's in Nova Scotia, in Halifax, where I'm from, and did some community work internationally, and then decided I wanted to do something. I was still really passionate about social justice and community development, but wanted to do something like maybe do that on a more volunteer basis as opposed to a career basis, and wanted to do something more fun, and thought music seemed fun. Yeah. That's what I'll do. And I hopped in my car and drove to Toronto to make it in the music biz. Not something I'd recommend for everybody, but it was the, I don't know, ignorance and arrogance of youth maybe. Or naivete of youth. And yeah, so one of my entry points though was that was War Child Canada. So because I had a background in international development studies, Lisa's a bit new at the time. She was the president of BMG Canada and was very heavily involved in War Child Canada. So it was sort of like two of my passions in one organization. And then she was also spearheading a campaign called Rush the Vote, trying to generate more awareness amongst youth voters. So she asked me to be the project coordinator for a Rush the Vote concert that they were doing. It was a lot of the BMG artists were performing, and that was sort of how I got connected with her, and she was able to see my work ethic, and then that's how I became a mentee of hers. And then that was sort of, I mean, it wasn't my only entry point into the music business, but definitely it was a turning point, I think, for me in my career, and the entry point from international development.
Right. And so how did that relationship and that mentorship with Lisa then sort of transform itself into artist management work for you?
Well, I wanted to do artist management. I'll backtrack a little. So when I first arrived in Toronto, so a lot of people will say, oh, if you need anything, just call. Yeah. And stuff in life, right? And so I had met Farley Flex, I think the summer before I had moved there. I had come to Toronto to go to a convention called NABFEM, which was the National Association of Black Female Executives in Music and Entertainment. And he at the time was very involved with Flow, the radio station. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the people I met who said, oh, if you need anything, just call. And I was like, oh, I'm coming to Toronto and I need a job. he didn't have a job for me, but like he did know a booking agent who was looking to
Right.
mentor someone and to like bring them into the fold, and they wanted to be booking more talent that fit into the, like, because Flow had kind of just started happening, there wasn't really an agency that was booking a lot of the talent that was getting played on Flow. So my first job was as a booking agent. Didn't get paid very much because, as you know, agents get paid a percentage, and when you're booking artists, they don't get paid very much. It's not a whole lot, but I made a ton of connections, and so there was a little bit of overlap there with some of the talent that was also performing for Rush the Vote, and Lisa's a Bit New, and it was all kind of there, all these interconnections of sort of common connections. So that was where I got my start. It was like kind of as a booking agent, and then doing some other stuff with War Child, and then doing this. I was basically just trying to get my foot in any door. But it was primarily through Rush the Vote that I was working closely with Lisa's a Bit New, and she saw my work ethic and thought that I would be, she recommended me as someone like for some of the smaller labels that were under BMG. So at that time it was Vic Recordings. And then there was another label. Well, through Vic Recordings, she had signed the Rascals, Keisha Shante, and Shawn Desman. So she had recommended to, Shawn was signed to another, like a subsidiary label, and they were looking for support. And she had recommended me to them as someone who works hard and gets it. And yeah, so that was kind of how I got into that.
That's a lot of top Canadian talent in that era to be working on like a sub label of BMG. I didn't realize they were all housed under that same roof at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Vic Recordings.
Yeah. Amazing. It seems like that bold, or as you put it, maybe slightly naive move of like leaving for Toronto resulted in a lot of those connections and those doors opening.
Yeah.
How do you think about now sort of your relation to place? And, you know, I'm coming from Atlantic Canada, myself operating in Newfoundland. You know, do you think folks need to leave these smaller centers in order to make it per se, whatever that means on an individual basis? Or is it just that because of the nature of the industry, there will be so many more opportunities in these big centers?
Well, I think that, I mean, for me, it was necessary because of the genre I wanted to work in,
Right.
But also I just think the time, like it was, I think it was 15 years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, and now even it's different from, I think when you and I first had this conversation, like post-pandemic, I feel like it's a different answer, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily people have to move. I definitely think you need to be like travel. And if, for example, if you're want to work with within the Canadian music industry, you definitely need to come to Toronto. I don't know if you have to live in Toronto. It might not even make sense financially to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think you need to be able to make like network, but I just think networking looks different now than it did like 15 years ago. I was not going to get anywhere making phone calls.
Right.
In Halifax, right. Like people needed to work with me. I think also because my level of experience at that time was nil. Like people are like, people need to like interact with you. And like, so, and for me, it was like everyone I worked with from the book, like at the booking agency. And then when I was working with Lisa's a Bit New, and like everyone early on in my career had told me up front, and then, you know, maybe a little bit of hindsight, but that they knew I didn't have all the experience, but they believed I had integrity and they trusted my work ethic. So for them, it was like, you know, not everyone is looking for that. Some people really just want the experience, but I think for some people who already have all the experience, it's more important to have the integrity and the work ethic, because you can just gain the experience over time.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I try and reflect on sort of my own position and what I'm able to offer the folks I'm trying to work with. And I feel like I don't have some of those higher level achievements, accomplishments, experiences yet. So really it is like my work ethic and my integrity and maybe some of the like knowledge that I have up to this point. And
the just, I think the like, never take no for an answer. Like I did have someone tell me that when they found out I was from Nova Scotia, they were like, oh, that makes so much sense because everyone I know who's making it here is from somewhere else.
Right.
Like, because everyone has come from somewhere else to like, with that never take no for an answer attitude and was like hustling.
Yeah. I mean, Do you think those are always the people who make it, or the people who just won't take no, just keep going, keep going, keep going, no matter what? And was that you when you started?
That was me when I started. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is still me. I mean, maybe I shouldn't use those exact words, but I just think like, cause I think you can't just blindly not take no for an answer.
Sure.
But,
need a little dash of self-awareness.
But not everyone's going to see your vision, I guess, is the point. It's knowing when, like, I guess knowing when your vision is something that can happen. Like, I think even when I left Nova Scotia, I mean, people didn't see my vision. I can't remember if I told you this, but I was in the BBI program, the Black Business Initiative.
Okay.
And I had come to Toronto. I was in the program, and you're not allowed to, like, you have to go to all the classes. I don't remember all the rules, but I had come to Toronto for this conference that I had just mentioned, NABFEM. And I mean, it's super heavy hitters were in this convention. They had come to Toronto for the first time because the dollar was so low.
Right.
They were like, oh, we should just all fly to Toronto. But it was like Suzanne DePass, who's the executive producer of the American Music Awards.
Yeah.
Like Gene Riggin, Sylvia Rohn, like
wow.
all the Johnny Walker, all the heavy hitters from like Elektra, Def Jam, Violator, like they were all there, like accessible, sitting at the same table, like a sisterhood of people who want to mentor. Like there was no way I could have had any better connections. So anyways, I didn't want to come home for class because I'm like, oh no, this convention's happening and I'm volunteering. And they're like, nope, you have to be here for class on Monday. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like this is my business plan.
Yeah.
Like, so I think this was an example of they're not seeing the bigger picture of how much an impact that could have on my career, on my business plan, on my, like this was like the upper echelon of exactly what my business plan was. And they did not see it. And so I was like, well, I'm not coming.
See you later.
And I got kicked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the right reasons, it sounds like.
Yeah. But I share that to say, not everyone's gonna see the vision, and so sometimes you just need to know, like, well, when is it believing in your own vision? Yeah. I do have a good. Actually, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
This is something I really do always think about. Is this? The Dixie Chicks did a documentary a while ago when they released "Shut Up and Sing," and in the documentary, they were doing their own tour. They were touring Shut Up and Sing. They were getting tons of backlash. They were doing their own tour, and there was venues who weren't picking up the tour. So that, I think at a certain point they were running at a deficit, and the question was, do they still continue the tour, or do they? Live Nation was willing to buy it, but they wanted to do it. We're doing it themselves, right? And so they were having this conversation of should they sell it to Live Nation and let them do it, or do they continue to do this knowing that they could fail and be in the hole? And everyone had a different opinion. And the lead singer, she's like, going back and forth, and she's like, you know what, I just don't feel good about selling this to Live Nation, because at the end of the day, it's like I have to bet on myself. Like, we have to bet on us. Like, are we betting on us? All right. And so I always think of that, like, in a variety of scenarios where it's like, am I betting on myself? Because if I am, then you kind of have to sort of take that risk sometimes. Yeah,
that's interesting. I think about what that means sort of all the way up through. And I think it's follow Master P on Instagram. I think that's part of his story early on too, right? As he was offered like $1 million or $2 million. I don't know if that was for his label or for him as a solo act at the time, but he said like, I mean, if they think I'm worth $1 million, I must be worth 40. So I'm going to bet on myself. Yeah. And now, I mean, you look at where he's at with the No Limit Chronicles and, all of those artists that they released, and Rap Snacks and the shoe line. And I think that's a great example of exactly what you're saying, betting on yourself. And I think that just means a little more financial risk sometimes, and maybe a little delay in terms of the reward or the payout.
Definitely. I mean, and I think not everyone is interested in taking on all those different roles. Like, it definitely means you're doing more. Like, some people don't want that, so there's nothing wrong with that. But there's definitely, I think, a delay, and there's probably more failures and more times that you have to get back up.
Yeah, well, not everybody's an entrepreneur either, and I don't think everybody
exactly.
should have to be.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's the right thing to sign to a big company or a big machine and have a big team around you, especially as an artist, if that means you can just focus on the one thing that you really love and that you really excel at.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to dig into mentorship a little more with you. And maybe for the folks that are listening that are earlier on in their careers as industry professionals or artists, in that sort of that early period going into Toronto when you were opening doors for yourself and forming some of those early relationships, what was the value you brought to the table as a mentee, or how did you leverage your way into relationships with folks who would take you on to mentor you?
That's a good question. I think it was my work ethic.
Yeah.
My work ethic. And I mean, I just wanted the experience, and I always showed up, and I was always kind of ready to dive in, which seems so obvious, but I think sometimes that's really hard to find, is like people who, like, I think 80% of it is showing up, and it sounds like so easy. It's like, what? That's all I gotta do? It's like, yeah, but until you know, like, it really is hard to find sometimes someone who's just available to like show up and do the work.
Yeah. I think about like anything that I've accomplished or that my acts have accomplished, and it's always like you're out doing it. You're out doing it, and the thing happens because you're there.
Yeah. And I think you then also become top of mind for any other, like, it could be small opportunities that have led to bigger opportunities that maybe I'm not even remembering, but like I was top of mind because I was out doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how has that impacted or affected the way you think of mentorship for yourself now? Because I know, and I think I said this to you over email, but you were someone who, when we met 2015, 2016, whenever that was, for the first time in New York on that SEMA trip.
Oh, yeah.
You were super open, super gracious, helpful, a great just presence and person, and someone who, you know, is an industry vet. And I got all that. Yeah, well, it's nice. And I mean, you know what? I think I feel really fortunate in that I've encountered lots of people like that. Yourself, I think about Sherry Jones on the East Coast. I think about Rob Lanny in Toronto. Folks who have been doing it for a lot of years and who are so helpful to folks who are new and up and coming, even if there's no sort of direct relationship or any kind of value exchange happening. How do you think about mentorship in your own work now? And do you actively mentor folks either sort of within your roster or outside of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentor in a variety of ways. I have mentored in like a more formal setting. So I did a couple years in a row, I did a mentorship with the university. It's a university in Mexico City. Okay. They have this a program where the students, in order to graduate, have to go abroad. I think it's for international business. They have to go abroad and do an internship somewhere. And so anyways, Canada I knew someone who was working with them to bring mentees to Toronto. So I've done that 3 times, where I had a student from Mexico City come for a couple of months. And I am, the way I like to mentor in that way is I like to have a sense of what their goals are, like what your goals are, where you want to go. And then there's certain things that I need you to do. And then I'm happy to expose you to the things that where you may have no experience, but maybe you're interested in A&R, or you're interested in management, or you're interested in, I don't know, marketing.
Right.
So that has worked for me in a like kind of more, like I said, more formal sort of organized way. But like I do panels, like it's rare that I say no to a panel or a workshop or anything like that. I think because like when I was in Nova Scotia, it was really hard for me to like get information or context, or just, there's just things I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, so I've also like since then gone back and done workshops in Nova Scotia, just because I know that I think there's a big gap between genres where there's like information happens in like kind of the folk or rock world in Nova Scotia. But then if you're like doing hip hop, R&B or soul, it's like the information isn't or the contacts or the network. It's like it's very segregated. So I've gone back and done release strategy workshops just because I wanted to, and because I wanted to give back, and I know that the information is kind of stagnant. And then I also have an online course that just helps emerging artists walk through the process. And again, I'm pretty, in general, not just with emerging artists, but I have a passion for connecting people. So whether it's someone who's established but just needs a contact in the UK, if I have it, I'm happy to be like, oh my gosh, you should totally connect with so
yeah,
not random. I don't mean a cold call. Hey,
no.
With so and so. I am always thinking about who I could connect someone with if I know sort of what they're looking for.
Yeah. What informs or inspires that sort of transparency, openness? Is that your character generally, or is that sort of as a result of the help you've been given? Or
I suspect maybe just because I know what it was like to come from a smaller place and have no contacts, and I don't know. It seems like it benefits everyone. So
yeah, that's right. I mean, that's something that I think maybe is not said explicitly enough, is that there's plenty here for everybody. We can all come in and enjoy our little piece of the real estate of the industry, and that you don't lose anything by sharing contacts, by sharing knowledge, by sharing access to resources and things. So it's awesome to see you doing that actively.
Yeah. And I think, when I share contacts, it's because I believe both of those contacts will be. It's not one person needs a contact and then you're making this random, where this person's not going to be so happy about it.
Yeah. It's a good way to ruin relationships.
Two people should really connect. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's who you need to connect with.
Yeah. Out of self-interest, I'd love to hear more about your course and why you decided to start that, and then sort of how it's working, bringing artists on board and through it.
Well, I started doing it because I get so many requests for management that I can't take on, obviously, all of them. And then even sometimes there's people who are not maybe at a stage where they need management. Mm-hmm. They're, sort of in the emerging stage. And you're asking about the course, right? Yeah. So I think I get, so the reason I started it is because I get so many requests for management. I can't take them all on. And then some artists are not really necessarily in the space where they need management, but they need some kind of direction and don't know where to get the information. And the most popular question I get is how to self-release. Mm-hmm. So I created a program that it's an online program. It's something I can point them to easily. I give them mentorship throughout the process, but it's instead of me having to hop on all these calls, it's I've just recorded it and we have worksheets in it. I really dive deep into branding because I think that that's the most important part leading up to any kind of release. Yeah. So, so that was the main catalyst for doing that, and it's been going well. I forget the second part of the question.
That's okay. Do you wanna plug it at all? Is there a website people can go to, or?
Sure. Well, it's on my website, klmanagement.co. If you just click at the top under workshops and courses, there's a link there.
Cool. Yeah. You said that you often push people to the course who maybe aren't ready for management. What are some of the milestones or stats or whatever that make you feel like an artist is ready for management? Or some of those indicators.
I do want to maybe also correct myself and say maybe not ready for management, for me to manage them.
Sure, fair.
I think you can always have a friend at any stage of your career who maybe is interested in helping and who can manage you.
Totally.
So I think a couple things. Well, when I'm looking for an artist to manage, I'm looking for an artist who has pretty much, talent is the first thing.
Yeah.
Needs to be said because case, right?
Yeah.
I personally, this might change now post-pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, it was really important to me. They had to have a killer live show. Yeah. That was something that I really use in terms of how I manage and in terms of the strategy that I use for a release.
Yeah.
So that was something that was really important. I really have to like connect with them. So it's not just a, hey, manage me, and then, yeah, you're great, you have all these numbers. Like, I really have to have a personal kind of connection with them, and whether that's like values alignment or like kind of on the same page in terms of what the vision is for their project and their career. Work ethic, like, so it's a red flag if they're looking for management and then can't follow up on things or aren't doing some of the things you maybe suggest they do. What else? I think those are the, I mean, it's, you do want to see that there is some kind of buzz, but not always. Like, I mean, there have been times where there's been artists that I just thought were stars.
Right.
But I think that's rare, like more rare. Usually I want to see some kind of like receipts. Like, there's someone else that's interested here. Like, it doesn't have to be a label or anything like that.
Sure.
Like, I know that a label is not necessarily the first person who's going to recognize, who's going to see the vision. But like, I need to be able to know how I'm going to monetize this, because that's the whole point. And then for me, if it's like, this is amazing, but I can't monetize it for 5 years, then to me, then you're not ready for me to manage you yet, because that's too far of a trajectory.
Something I'm like still thinking through for myself is, like, I think when you're putting a manager in place in a business, it's because there's a business there to run that a manager can manage. And so I'm trying to work through in my own mind, like, how much of a business do I have to see in place before I want to step in as a manager, versus how much of a business do I think I can build with that artist to help support what they're doing?
Yeah.
Do you think about the balance that way?
Absolutely. And I think it's different for each artist, because I think sometimes, I mean, it's great when you can kind of step in and there's already like a lot of things happening, but like, maybe they don't have someone they trust who can negotiate things, or maybe they have like, maybe they've had a manager before that they've fired. Maybe they don't know how to make it bigger. Like, they don't have contacts in different markets, or they don't feel like they have a team around them that's, like, if they have, like, there have been some of the artists I've worked with I've inherited old teams. Like, they were signed to a label when they didn't know what was, and the label just made the team. And then it's like, I don't know if this is the right team, or, and so it's like going in and figuring out, okay, no, this probably isn't the same. This, obviously the label stays the same, but like, we can change all these other players, and there should be values alignment here. And then like, what other markets are we looking at? Because sometimes the label doesn't care about that. Like, they have worldwide ownership, and they're like, whatever. So, so I think, so sometimes it's like international markets is what I bring to the table for an artist who is successful here. But then other times it's connecting them. Like, I do work sometimes on a consulting basis with younger artists who are super talented, but they literally have no contacts, because they haven't been in the industry long enough. So whether that's connecting them with songwriters or producers or digital marketing teams. There's kind of so many, there's not one way. For me, anyways.
You brought up an interesting thing there where you said sometimes the label, or maybe it's another partner, is like, whatever is kind of their feeling about it. How do you motivate maybe not an unmotivated team member, but someone who maybe is not at your same level of excitement for the project? Is that even possible to like motivate somebody who isn't fully invested or fully on board?
I think you always try to motivate them. Well, I guess it depends. If they're willing to push strings, then you kind of have to motivate them and figure out how to motivate them. And sometimes it's like by making them realize that they're going to make more money. But sometimes I think you just have to, I don't know, you just like keep going, like just hope. You have to, I think, because now that you're asking it, I'm sort of thinking back, how have I done this? I think one part is do your best to motivate them. The second part is, if they're really not going to be motivated, how to like neutralize them so they're not in the way of you doing things that you need to do, which I have had to navigate. and they usually come on at some point after, but it's like, you don't want them stepping on all your, like, if you have to do it alone or find your own way or your own team, then
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to ask you, because you've worked with emerging acts all the way up to, Juno Award winning platinum selling superstar acts. Does the way that you have to advocate for your artists change at those levels at any point in the industry, or is it like you're pushing hard bottom to top?
No, I think you're definitely pushing hard bottom to top. I think you would think that it gets easier, but I think there's just always new mountains to climb, or new, like, if you're, regardless of what level you're at, if you're independent, there's less people you have to convince than if you're with a major.
Yeah.
So whether you're a platinum selling artist or not, if you're a platinum selling artist with a major label, there's still the whole label that you have to get on board, and then it takes them a really long time to do anything, like to get like, because it's this big machine. It just takes so long for things to happen, and then it takes even longer to change direction. Whereas when you're independent and you have a smaller team, it's like you can kind of course correct quick, and there's more chance that everyone's kind of on the same page anyways.
Right.
So I think you would think that as you get more successful, there's less that you have to do, but I don't think that's accurate. I feel like I've always had, like, because there's always new mountains.
Yeah.
I think one thing that does happen is you do get a lot of requests for things. So there is more stuff coming in than when you're not known, but like you still have to, for your own vision, you're still convincing people, still having to navigate things, there's still a lot to get people to see your vision.
Yeah, because I think there's this perception amongst some folks, some artists, that like if you get to a certain level at the end of the industry, that there will be less work for you to do, that things will just get easier.
Yeah.
And I have not gotten to that level yet myself, but I would assume that maybe is not the case, and that there probably ends up being more work.
Yeah.
The higher you get.
More work, and I think you just are having the same not the same conversations, but similar conversations, just with a higher level group of people. So like, we're still convincing the Junos about something, or we're still trying to convince like a TV network about something, or we're still trying to. It's just bigger mountains to climb.
It must feel nice though when there's like when it gets to that crossover point, when there start to be more things sort of coming in than you're having to pitch for directly.
Yeah.
That I haven't had that yet either, but I can imagine it would be nice.
I wouldn't say more. I'm not saying more, but I mean,
sure.
Mean more than when you're an emerging artist, where there's just things aren't coming in because they don't know who the artist is yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what are the characteristics that give an artist the potential to reach sort of that highest level of the industry, and are they the same or different from sort of just the qualities you said you're looking for in an artist who you're going to manage?
I definitely think it's still hard work. I think it's having a good team, having the right team around you. I think it helps to be be kind. I think like one of the things I've been working with Shawn Desman for like 10 plus years. And I will still have people like grips will be like, oh, Shawn, he'll help carry stuff out. Like people remember his kindness for like long periods of time.
Yeah.
And I think that people take that for granted, that it really does help. Like just being a kind person is helpful because you're not burning bridges and then making things difficult for yourself.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Want to jump into maybe like a real, or hopefully a real practical level question for some folks, but you've had artists open up or tour with acts like the Backstreet Boys, Selena Gomez, like big international superstar level acts. How does one go about acquiring those slots, those performance slots on those shows, those tours? What does it take to get on those bills?
Well, a couple things. I think, if it's just in your market, it's just having contacts with the promoters who are booking those shows.
Yep.
it's easier to get on just in your market. Like if it's just one show in your market, that's easier to get on than a tour, because most tours with international artists they're bringing their own opening act.
Right.
So it's rare that they have an opening slot for a Canadian. They're few and far between. So getting back to though, like never taking no for an answer or people not seeing your vision. When we did the Selena Gomez tour, I mean, I was so surprised, but like the label did not see the vision for this. And I'm like, what do you mean? We wanted, like, because our agent had pitched it and they specifically wanted an act. It was a dry tour. And so they were very concerned about who was going to be the opening act. And like, because there was no alcohol, and so they wanted the whole quote unquote wholesome act, and that, but also like just experientially, like, is this they didn't want to have someone they were going to have problems with, like, and having to remove. So our agent had pitched it, and we didn't hear back from anyone for a really long time, and I was like, we just gotta like turn over like our agent can only do so much, like he's pitching it, but like he's pitching it to their agent or their tour manager, I don't remember exactly, but like he can keep doing that, but there's that, like that's his only like line of communication there, right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, we need to just uncover every stone. But like she was signed to Universal, Shawn was signed to Universal. So I reached out to the president and I'm like, listen, this tour is happening. We've been pitched for it. We're in the short list. Shawn would be perfect. Like, can you, like, he's the president of Universal, I'm assuming. Not maybe make it happen, but at least put in a good word. Yeah. And the label was like, well, I don't know if we need this. It was at the end of the record. So they were like, well, we don't need to do, why would we're not, it's not like, they didn't see the value because it was the end of the record. Why would we be marketing this? And it's like, we're not asking for money. I'm just asking you to put the call in so we can do the tour. And he's like, well, I mean, I guess if you really want it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yes, do it. Make this call. Do something. Like, yeah. So then I was like, okay, we can't count on that because he's not very enthusiastic about this. So it just so happened that we were, well, this is a whole other conversation, but we were at that time very involved with We Day. So they were trying to get Selena Gomez for their Vancouver show. Okay. So I reached out we were very close with the person who books the talent. So I'm like, listen, if you have any conversations with their talent, feel free to mention that Shawn is also doing that show and that he's great. And, you know, just, I wanted them to feel like, I really think sometimes it's just about making sure, you don't need to have a variety of people selling, but you just need his name to come up in numerous different places. Sure. That was my goal. So then the show, the We Day shows in Toronto and Vancouver are recorded for broadcast. So the producer, who was for Much, or might have been CTV, had produced, Shawn had done a red carpet special for the Junos. So it was the same producer. So I had a conversation with her. I was like, oh, she's doing I'm going to like see if she's ever and it's like no pressure. Like I'm not calling people and like saying, make sure you do this. It's just like, hey, I'm really trying to get Shawn on this tour. If you're having a conversation with him, if you can mention it, if it comes up, or if you can mention that you loved working with him, or or he's going to be here, whatever. And everyone was like, yes, absolutely, no problem. And we got the tour. Cool. But like, I feel like if we had just left it to the agent, we may or may not have, who knows. But we didn't even find out till like less than 2 weeks before the tour started. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because it's like sort of classic marketing where you've got to have like 5 or 6 or 7 touches with someone where before they're going to make a purchase. And you made that happen with a touring opportunity or a performance opportunity. I think that's important when you want like something, and because like I said, our agent is passionate about it, but like the two agents talking, I mean, of course it sometimes does happen that way, but it's like, if there's any kind of doubt, then I just wanted, again, for, like you just said, from the marketing touch points. Yeah. Well, there's so many levels of decision makers too. Yeah. When you get to a team of that size, I'm sure, where there's the agents communicating, and there's managers on both sides, and there's the label, which is the same umbrella label. The venues, the artists themselves. It's like, I think it was a Live Nation. So like it was the Live Nation aspect. So yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So. Cool.
Thank you for that. That was super, super helpful. I want to dive into another real sort of like practical question for folks on brand partnerships.
Yeah.
So it's TiKA with Sephora. There's a Sephora partnership there. Can you tell me how that came about? Sure.
So I have a relationship with Virtue. Virtue is the agency with Vice. So it's like Vice has its own agency that does like branding and marketing and brand partnerships. And so Virtue, I didn't know this, but I just have a relationship with them through other things I've done with them. But Sephora brought them on as their agency in Canada.
Okay.
So I think the way it sort of came about was twofold. Like one is that I have a relationship with them, so I'm sort of top of mind, but TiKA was also in market, and so she was top of mind as well. Like, right. So I think it was like kind of those two things kind of came together when they were looking at the messaging for the campaign.
Yeah.
So then they sent us an offer. Well, this is just I don't know if I can really say this, so I'm just going to make a blanket statement because I do this often.
That's fair.
I did this with a record contract as well, where sometimes I don't know what the going rate of something is. It's like,
right, that's fair.
What is the going rate for a record deal? So what is it for a brand partnership? Or like, and of course it varies, but sometimes I don't know what it is. So I try to err on the side of caution, ask for a lot.
Good move.
And then, because if they can always come back and say no, and if something is really small, you're like, oh, well, I guess we can do it for this amount. But
yeah.
But more often than not, if you ask, I don't mean a lot just for the sake of asking a lot. Like I think about, well, what do we need? What makes sense? Okay, they have tons of money probably, so this seems like a fair price.
Yep.
And in most cases, I'm able to double offers that way.
Wow.
So, what was the question?
Well, just generally, how did the brand partnership come about? And then more specifically, like, how do you think about value alignment when it comes to pairing an artist with a brand that way?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So with values alignment, I go through with all of my clients just what their values are and what kind of messaging they want to align themselves with, because I think it's also a really good way to, like, I call them like brand entry points. Yep. So when you're releasing music, there's thousands, millions of songs being released and new artists. Like fans aren't going to just click on it just because they have a cool artwork. They might, but like there's so much music that what makes you stand out. And sometimes what makes you stand out is being made aware of your project through something that's not related to music. So if there's, right. With Sephora, it was a great brand entry point because TiKA is introduced to an audience through like beauty and cosmetics and the messaging around Sephora. And then people are like, oh, this is really cool. She seems really cool. Oh my gosh, she's an artist. Let me check out her music. It removes that whole piece of like just being another song on a playlist or another, not that part's not important, because that part is still very important.
For sure.
But in terms of like growing an audience, so I always really try to have a really clear sense of what the artist values are, so that when we're aligning with different brands, they're on point. But also, I just think it's a really important way to connect with fans.
Cool.
I think it's more valuable. It's a more meaningful connection when fans connect with you based on your values. Like then they're really interested to hear like all your music.
Right. They're connecting to you first through who you are as a person, and then they get to experience your music through that lens of who you are. Yeah. On the asking for too much point, I made the mistake recently. I won't share the artist or the amount, but I'm having, it's been difficult for me trying to navigate the digital stuff, the live streaming, and how to price that and how to price that against a show. And anyway, I had an artist who we had a corporate live stream inquiry for, and I tried to price it in a way that I thought was fair for, you know, the live stream ask.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back and they said, "Oh, wow, that's so reasonable. Thank you for that very reasonable quote." And I said, "Oh, no, this is the worst thing you could possibly hear." And I said, "Well, listen, this is what, you know, this person's rate typically is for these kinds of events. You know, I was trying to be fair in the Zoom COVID era. If you could get closer to our regular rate, that would be great."
And what did they do?
Oh, they went right to the regular rate. They were very fair about it, so it was great. But I felt like a dummy because I'm just, you know, it's hard to know, because in brand partnership situations, sync now with live streaming, it's like in some cases the right number could be $1, and it could be from $1 all the way up to, you know, 100 million, depending on who you are and what the situation is. And to know where to come in, because I have had it happen before where I have quoted at what I thought was a fair, conservatively high price, and scared folks away. So always trying to balance, like, keeping folks within the negotiation and getting the best possible price for the people I'm representing.
I always think it's easier, though, to come down, like, even if you scare someone away, you can be like, well, they're really excited about this, so I mean, how do we, we can be like, it's easier to come down than, I mean, that takes skill for you to be able to come down and bring it up.
Well, I've played to their kindness, which you can do in some cases. Sort of a big picture question. I don't want to take up too much more of your time this afternoon, but how do you think about defining success for yourself in your work? And then how do you help the artists that you represent to define success and to set goals for themselves?
Oh, that is a good one. Well, I think that it evolves. Like, so I think what success looked like to me maybe even a few years ago is different to what it looks like to me now. And how would I define it? I try not to get too caught up in it, just because it stresses me out. But like, I feel like I mean, this is not thinking about it. This is something I think my dad has kind of drilled into me. But I think he always sort of says, you know, if you're doing something if you're doing something you love and you can make a living from it and you're happy, then you're already kind of at least halfway there, or successful like that. I mean, I know everyone has different definitions, but so I do think that that's important to me. Like, it's important to me that I'm doing something that I think like, this is what I mean when I say it's evolved. When I started out, I wanted to I want to do something that I am super passionate about, and that it like, that's it. Whereas now I think, okay, yes, I want to be passionate about it. There are definitely elements of this that I'm not super passionate about, like, you know, but like, pardon?
I said like sending hundreds of emails a day.
But yeah, I don't have to be passionate about like every single aspect of, you know, this industry or this career. But like, I do like the freedom of entrepreneurship, even though there's also a lot of hindrances, because when it's all rests on you, then like you can be locked in, you know, in some ways. But yeah, I think that, so I guess success to me is doing something I love with people I love and respect, making a living at it. I would always I always sort of have some goals that I haven't reached yet. So success is always evolving. And then in terms of how I talk about it with my clients is like, early on, we go through values and goals. So I don't know if it's like really success. I do ask them kind of what their big vision is. So I guess that's similar to what success looks like. So that we are making sure that all of these decisions we're making or projects we're working on are at least on the path to what the big vision is. So I guess maybe it's just that the word success is not used so much as like dreams and big vision and
right.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know if that answers your question. That was
100%. And something I like. It's different for me all the time too. And I have trouble defining it, but for me, when I think about success, it is more my personal life.
Yeah.
Like success for me is like I'm running my business from home in close proximity to all of my immediate family members.
Yeah.
And my wife and I have a great loving relationship, and we're expecting a baby now in November. Yeah. On a personal note, I was thinking over the weekend, I was like, I'm going to be 32 and have like everything I ever wanted for myself.
Yeah.
In November, in terms of a family and a child, and running my own business and being healthy, and all of my family is healthy and alive. And I just hope it doesn't make me lazy. I've already done it all. This is great. Oh my. Okay. Maybe just one last question,
sure.
Katrina. And you can answer this either from whichever perspective you want, whether it's sort of nationally or more focused in Atlantic Canada. But, what do you think we're doing really well in the music industry right now? And where do you think we could see some changes, improvements over the coming years in the industry specifically?
In the industry in Canada?
Well, I think about I've been asking a lot of folks this specifically about Newfoundland, because it's more of like it's been mostly Newfoundland and Labrador industry professionals, but you've got the Atlantic Canadian perspective plus national and international perspectives. So, really, however you want to grapple with that one, I guess.
And the question is, what are we doing well and what needs improvement?
Yeah.
I think that, what are we doing well? I mean, we're doing something right when a lot of international artists are now Canadian.
Right.
Even though I think what we're not doing well is we're not retaining them, because they're all signed to US deals. They're not signed. So I definitely think Canada has a lack of foresight.
Right.
The industry and the infrastructure, and specifically the major labels, because they haven't signed. Well, I don't know if it's that they didn't have the right deals, or if they just didn't see the vision.
Right.
This is becoming a theme. They didn't see the vision.
Yeah. Big picture.
And so they all end up finding elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I think there's work to be done there. I definitely think that, again, when it comes to genres, and then, I mean, more specifically systemic racism, that like there's work to be done there. And maybe part of that is also why they can't see the vision, because it's not genre they know or respect. So I think there's work to be done there. I think that's really pronounced in the East Coast.
Yeah.
So there's work to be done there. I don't know what the work is, but I'm just saying there's like things done.
Something needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, and I think some of it is, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. The things I try to do is whenever I'm on the East Coast, I try to connect people like who just may not know. Like, so for example, when I was there for Halifax Pop, SEMA was doing a mixer, and it was like, I didn't know any like R&B soul artists from there who were invited, but because SEMA doesn't know who they are, and they didn't even know who SEMA was. You know what I mean? Like, not that SEMA would necessarily be able to assist, but you never know who you're going to meet at those networking things, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a friend of mine who does funding for Factor was there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to know these people. Like, this is the group of artists I can connect you with. And he was at the SEMA event. So Jay Devonish was there from a label. So it's like sometimes to meet or network, it's important to just be able to associate with those associations.
Yeah.
But I just try to connect people and like kind of bring them into places that I'm at. And then, like I said, I did the workshop there. We did this is another We Day story, but we did a We Day maybe 5 years ago, where Shawn didn't have a song in market. So he wanted to do a cover, and he did Lean on Me. And he's like, yeah, I'd really like to do this with a choir. And so I was like, oh my gosh, perfect. I know a choir. And we had the North Preston Choir like do Lean on Me. But like, again, not to throw anyone under the bus, but like We Day was like, oh, we have a choir for you. And I won't say who it was, but it was a private school, like then it's like, well, this is not who, like, no.
Yeah.
That's okay. But yeah, but again, it's like, because people want to connect to people that they are already connected with, right? So they're like, oh, let's use this school. I don't know, maybe they did a bunch of We Day stuff, but
right.
That's not relevant for what we wanted to do.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting and accurate observation that especially in Atlantic Canada, we don't have some of the same levels of infrastructure, industry professionals operating in pop, R&B, hip hop. And then I think sometimes that's, why you end up in a situation where SEMA doesn't know who some of those artists are, because the industry isn't at a level in those genres to be able to help grow those folks to a point where they get to the radar of a SEMA or, whoever.
But I do think, having said that, even for the organizations like a SEMA and like the music industry associations, I have found that the majority of the time they are also have limited contacts in those genres. Because like even when we did that trade in New York, it was great to be able to go to like YouTube and SoundCloud and Shazam. That's like universal. But like they couldn't set up any label meetings for me. So I had to do it on my own. Which thankfully we had a publisher who could help me set up those meetings. But like there is still a gap, I think, in the I don't know what you call them, the trade organizations, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think that is as a result of? Is it just like, have we been focusing on the wrong genres for the last 20 years? I feel like, I think about Atlantic Canada and I think about who the stars are that have come out of here over the last 10 to 20 years. I don't know that we've had any big stars since like the CD era kind of turned into the blog era and then into streaming. Which is maybe not fair, because I think about like Neon Dreams are on a really strong trajectory right now, and I hope represent sort of the next forefront of like superstar level acts coming out of Atlantic Canada. But so much of the industry is focused around rock, folk, guitar based kind of stuff. And I think has been locked in that mode. And I don't know, I've been 5-6 years into this, but I still feel like I'm so new and I can't talk to what was happening in 2000 or 2010 even, but it doesn't feel like we've necessarily adapted to the current sound in this part of the world yet. And that probably has been to our detriment a little bit. Because if you're not supporting hip hop music, R&B pop, like you don't get you're not going to have a Drake coming out of a Drake level talent coming out of this kind of an area. And even if there's a Drake hiding,
if they were there, they wouldn't know it.
Yeah. Or they're hiding somewhere in Yarmouth or in St. John, New Brunswick, but they're going to go to Toronto eventually. And then from Toronto, if we don't have the infrastructure nationally to keep them, they're going to go to the States. And I also don't know what to do there, but I think something needs to be done.
I do think one thing I will say is I was really impressed with, was it Nova Scotia Music Week last year? Or it might have been, no, it was the year before. And Dana, is it Wheeler or Beeler? Beeler.
Yep.
Yeah, I think she does a really good job at like curating delegates that reach a wide market. Like, cause I was impressed that like A3C was coming to Nova Scotia. And like you could build with them for over like 4 days. I think the challenge is that she's only one person and she's like doing her in her role and capacity, she's bringing people to the table. But when there's like, when it's already been so systemic before that, it's like, it's still like, okay, well, are the right artists meeting these people? Do they know who these people are? Like there's so many other layers.
And what support are those artists getting through the rest of the year too?
Yeah,
it's like, it's great to have an A3C at a Nova Scotia Music Week. And I think they have done a great job of bringing in delegates over the years, but like how are we as a region helping to develop the talent the other 360 days of the year when that conference or any conference?
And how are you developing those artists so that they are showcasing in a way that is received well by the because I think it's A3C was there, New School Rules, someone from BMI was there, from ASCAP.
Yeah.
But it's like, if we are just like, so it's like someone's doing their job in that regard, but it's like, okay, but the artists are not developed enough to be showcasing for them, or not all the artists who should be showcasing to them are. And like we're saying, what's happening the rest of the year? If they're not getting any funding for any of the, like, there's so many layers, but yeah, anyways. So
yeah, well, I often think about this sort of stuff when, like, you know, when stories come out about, you know, who's winning awards, just as an example. And I think that to me is a problem in and of itself, but is also symptomatic of the layers and layers and layers deeper of folks not being supported in the ways that they should be or need to be in order to get to a level where you're nominated and winning awards at, you know, whatever provincial, regional, national level that might be. And it's interesting because I think some of that support comes, you know, has to come well before a person is ready to be a member of a music industry association. That's like, we're talking about what's happening in schools. Elementary school, junior high schools, what's happening for people at home, what is the role of an organization like Music Counts to help make sure that, you know, poor rural areas have access to instruments. I did an interview with some folks up in Labrador who had access, you know, $25,000 worth of gear through Music Counts and bought a bunch of stuff, and now they have all these young artists coming up. And it's like, it's so multifaceted and intertwined. And anyway, I'm rambling now.
Everything you're saying is accurate.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today, Katrina. We're over the hour I had told you we would be talking for now, but I appreciate it so much. Like I said earlier, you're someone who has been so open and helpful, and you know, a great mentor and leader in the industry as long as I've known you. So I appreciate you, and
I appreciate you asking me, and it was fun chatting with you.
Yeah, and so I'll stop the recording, and then we can have an informal goodbye off record. Okay.
Cool.
Talk to you soon.